Hey, what's up, y'all? I know that one, my hat is looking a little wonky. I'm also in a different setting than usual. I'm outdoors. I'm trying to get used to just filming in a different setting outside of my home. So if this video is feeling all over the place, that's because it is. Things are kind of all over the place at the moment. But I was scrolling online and I seen something related to just like the sewing community, and also it kind of connects to my creative process, and I just wanted to chat through some things. So this video will kind of be two parts. One part is for my creative crew, the folks who tune in for just like, you know, sewing content creation, and then the second part would just be for me just sharing my thoughts about the creative process. I know that there are some folks who like to hear about sewing related things, and then there are some people who just like to hear about my creative process and just how I'm thinking and looking at things at the moment. So yeah, so the first thing I wanted to talk about was this topic that the Big Four pattern company has been liquidated. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like I know all the details about it and I know everything that's going on and things of that nature, but I did do a little Google search, a little chat GPT search, and I will share with you all what they said online and then share with you all my thoughts about it. And this video is mainly for those folks who, I don't know, maybe you just came across your very first like sewing pattern, you are excited about getting more into sewing, but now you're kind of, you know, depending on when you come across this video, you know, sewing patterns may not be as accessible as you would like. This video is for you because I am fairly new to sewing, but I feel like within the year that I got into sewing, Joann's Fabrics went out of business, and then now more recently we are hearing that the Big Four pattern company is being liquidated. Now, I have relatives who are very close to me who are in the liquidation business, but I don't necessarily know what it means for the Big Four pattern company. However, I did want to suggest some options, some alternative options for those who are just now getting into sewing and you may not be able to get your hands on a printed pattern. I did want to share with you all some other alternative options. The first alternative option is going on Etsy. Etsy has a bunch of indie pattern designers where you can print out your patterns. You don't necessarily have to purchase the patterns by the Big Four company. They do have indie patterns where you can print them out at home on your own printer, or they're even like, if you, depending on where you live, like for instance, I stay in the Bay Area and there is a sewing studio called Studio Sessions, and she actually offers to help you print out your sewing patterns. So either you can go to like places that print or print them out directly at home if you have access to a printer at home. So that's one option. Another thing is you can learn how to make your own clothes, your own patterns. Like I was literally, one of the things that I put on my make 9 list for this year is I wanted to learn how to make my own patterns so that way I can make my own designs and things of that nature. So that was literally on my bucket list, and there's actually an event, I'll try to put a photo of it up on the screen, where you can actually go and learn how to make your own designs and patterns. Like you don't have to necessarily go to fashion school to learn how to do it, but there are places that offer pattern making classes if you're into that. And the other alternative option is you can simply just trace your own clothes. You can trace out some of your garments that you really enjoy. Most of the times the things that we like, well, I'll just speak for myself, most of the things that I have gravitated towards wearing it's a very simple garment once you like start to learn and understand the construction of things. Like, I have this one sundress that I wear every summer. Like, I've had it for years now because it's made out of a good sturdy rib knit. It's a quality material, and I have worn it for years. Like, luckily I have not, like, my weight hasn't went up too much where I can't fit inside of that dress, and it's also made out of a stretchy material, so it expands, it contracts, so I can just kind of hold on to it. That's what type of garment it is. So you can use those type of garments that you have kind of had for a long time, and you've really seen yourself pull it out of your closet time and time again. You can trace your garments. I think that there are tons of videos here on YouTube where you can learn how to trace your garments and construct your own clothes. So that's my kind of stance on me hearing that the Big Four pattern company, they have been liquidated. I know there are some other people making videos and talking about, you know, what this means for the sewing community, and this kind of segues into the second portion of my video where I want to talk about the creative process, digital, and just things in general. I'm the type of person where I can zoom out and look at the big picture of things, and then zoom into, you know, very niche topics, like for instance my hobby of sewing and my profession of videography. I often go back and forth between like zooming in and zooming out and figuring out how does things happening on a large scale, like the big picture, what's going on around me, how is it impacting me, and how does this apply to my work. Now, the reason I've always kind of zoomed in and out is because I work in video, and I have literally seen over the years of how, you know, how technology, how it has an impact on my industry. Like, literally when I graduated from college, like, I learned television arts and communications, and I learned to film for TV and news. However, once the way people were consuming media started to change, people were viewing media more so on their cell phones and tablets, the requirement for how people wanted me to submit videos, the dimensions also changed. And sometimes with the dimensions also changing, it also meant that the software that I was using had to change, meaning like I had to use like Canva, or even now we see this like with CapCut, and I've just seen the transition. And that's also why I have been kind of gradually talking about this topic here and there on my YouTube channel. If you're a subscriber, you'll know I'm in my digital glow up era where I have been making that shift to be more visible online, take the time to not be intimidated by technology, and learn how to use the different tech and tools and things, and figuring out how does it apply directly to my industry and my niche. Because something else I've observed in just my lived experience is I pay close attention to how companies act, not necessarily what they say. I pay attention to what they do. It goes the same with people. Like, I pay attention to what people are doing and not necessarily what they are saying, if that makes sense. To give you all a personal example, I worked for a company, you know, within this past few years or so, just seeing like the evolution of how things have changed with the pandemic and things of that nature. And I've literally seen people on leadership teams where they'll be like, you know, I know things are uncertain in the world right now, things seem a little bit unfamiliar, but your job is safe, we're not laying people off, you know, the company's still doing well, you know, telling us, you know, things are going okay. But then also seeing them lay off somebody the week after. I've also seen, you know, companies constantly say things are fine, things are fine, things are fine, but then also certain departments start to get cut, budgets start to shrink. You know, you just start to see different things shifting, despite what people are saying. And so some of the things that I have noticed, even like other creators and sewists in the sewing community and the industry, I've started to see them make videos about like, oh, I'm getting into projector sewing, or I'm getting into indie patterns and things of that nature. And instead of me getting frustrated about it, a mindset shift I've had to personally have is, people are just switching to digital. And I think it's just a reflection of also what's going on in the world at a larger scale. Like, we are experiencing global warming, and we are experiencing a lot of people trying to be more frugal and sustainable and things of that nature. And with that, change has to happen. And even in just like, my lived experience of what has happened with the television, where we've seen the shift from analog to digital, like sometimes change is gradual. Like, you see things gradually start to phase out, like, because we know people are hesitant to change and are slow to change and evolve. You'll most likely see things gradually change and evolve through just phasing them out, or things no longer working the way they used to, because they are trying to force people to adapt with the times and accept change, instead of just ripping the band-aid off and just saying we're no longer doing it this way. It's a gradual thing. So I think that's what's happening, is there is a gradual shift and a push to digital. And you see this kind of shift happening across all industries. I even mentioned on one of my like live sit down sewing videos, I casually mentioned how I was inspired by Coachtopia, which is a subset or offset brand of Coach, where they are using the scraps of their original products that they're making. So they have their original bags and items and things that they are making to put out at the Coach brand, but then it's like, what happens to all those scraps? It needs to go somewhere. Like, they have taken all those scraps and they are recreating products for a subset brand, Coachtopia, so that way those scraps can become of use, and it's leaving less of a footprint here on the planet. So you'll see stuff like that popping up, where companies are shifting to be more conscious of just how things are evolving in the world. Again, do your own research on this stuff. This is just me just kind of riffing off the top of my head, and me just like observing things that are going on around me and how these different industries are shifting, evolving, and changing. Something else I have also noticed is just, when it comes to digital stuff, like I said, I have stopped thinking about like, oh, this is bad, this is harmful, this is this, and like having a negative response to these things, and figuring out how does it work for me, or how does it apply to me and fit in my life. Like, for instance, with AI becoming a thing, like I've heard so many people say like, oh, this isn't going to impact me, this isn't going to have an impact on my industry, only for it to later on somebody's plugging in all the steps of what you're doing for your job, and AI is slowly picking up on how to do your job, and people are using this tool or this technology to do the very thing that you thought would not replace you. Like, there are some aspects where it cannot replace you, but it gets pretty darn close. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about what I was observing, the things that I'm seeing shift across the different industries, and how it applies to just my industry, the creative process, and things of that nature. Because I think so often, like, we think things don't have an impact on us, or we feel like this is completely separate from my industry, or this is completely different from what I do on a day-to-day basis, and you think it has no correlation to you, and it does. The design group that prints sewing patterns, they're one of the largest tissue paper printing companies out there. So you have to just kind of think of the footprint the carbon footprint that it leaves on the planet, with them being one of the largest printers, and how they have to gradually make that shift with things that are going on in the world. So I know a lot of people might be viewing this as like a bad thing, but I have been kind of shifting my mindset around these things. Like, instead of it looking at it as like, oh, this is hard, this is challenging, it's, you know, all the negative things that we tend to naturally gravitate towards, I've been trying to be more accepting of it and just trying to figure out how to make it fit into my world and what I do. So yeah, this is getting pretty long and a lengthy video, but I just wanted to sit down and chat through that. I don't know what category this falls into in my content that I create. It's not necessarily fully sewing related, it's not necessarily fully digitally related, but I think that's also, it speaks to just us as people and the creative process. Like, these algorithms and all these things, like, it pushes a certain niche, and we as people, we're layered. Like, there's so many different layers and things that go into who we are, what we do, and how it has an impact on us. And so I've been trying to figure out, both on my channel, within my creative process, and the things that I'm creating, how do I touch on those different things and also communicate how those things have an impact? Because sometimes it can be something as simple as me sitting down and sewing, and I'm having a realization about like a video project, or I'm having a realization about something that's happening in life, and I'm like, oh, this is how these completely different things, these are how all of them like are threaded together, and they connect. They connect in some way, shape, or form. And so I'm figuring out what kind of series I want to create here on my channel, of like where this type of stuff fits, or even if I should continue to create these type of videos where I'm chatting through just things that I'm observing, the creative process, and how it all connects. I don't know, it depends on if you all enjoy these types of videos. I actually like talking about this type of stuff. This is the type of conversation that I typically have with my other creative friends. But if you would like to see more videos like this here on my channel, let me know in the comments section. If you would like to hear more of my thoughts about this type of stuff, let me know in the comments. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you all in my next video. Bye.